Although Dave doesn't get much screen time, his shelter is really well built. There's food stewing in the pot, and there's also a big fish beside it. So far, except for being thin, his life has been relatively comfortable. To withstand the upcoming cold winter, today he added a security door to his shelter. The bamboo he collected a few days ago came in handy just in time. First, he cut the old bamboo into appropriate sizes. Then he assembled 2 triangular frames to serve as the door frames. Next, he laid a thick layer of new bamboo on the door frames. Finally, he reinforced it in the way of making a ruggiamo, and it was done. Now it was time to test the effect. In the end, this door turned out to be really good. It even had an automatic closing function. If he could continuously obtain food later on, Dave still had a chance to win the $1 million prize.
If you love survival videos like this, please subscribe Surviholic.
More than 20 days into the survival challenge, Megan saw fish foraging by the lake early in the morning. She quickly took this golden opportunity to see if she could catch one, but after waiting for a long time, she didn't catch anything. In the end, she could only rely on her fishing device. Fortunately, there was really a fish on it. Megan was so excited that she jumped up directly. Not caring whether he would lose his chastity or not, he directly jumped into the water and lifted the fish up. The protein content in fish meat is higher than that in chicken and duck. He wouldn't have to worry about food for the next few days. He quickly lit a fire, stewed a pot of fish soup, and started gnawing on it. Unconsciously, the challenge had reached the 34th day. Brit lay in his shelter, physically and mentally exhausted. Since the weather turned cold, he hadn't caught a single fish. He had set up a rabbit trap some time ago, which was now his last hope for survival. But the sight in front of him dealt him a heavy blow. It seemed that the trap had caught a rabbit, but unfortunately, the line was bitten off, and the rabbit escaped. A rabbit's biting force was strong enough to bite through wood, let alone a trap made of fishing line. Back in the shelter, Brit was extremely frustrated. In desperation, he could only boil some water to fill his stomach. Long-term hunger can make people anxious and depressed, and Brit seemed to have developed the idea of quitting the competition. The next morning, he was like a walking corpse, mechanically collecting some firewood, and then taking out his family's photos to look at. The feeling of homesickness surged up instantly. After much deliberation, he dialed the number to quit the competition. After Brit left, there were only 7 contestants left. To win the prize money, Fowler had put a lot of effort into building his shelter. As early as half a month ago, he had already started construction. First, he inserted bamboo into the ground to form the basic framework. Then he dug out a fire pit in the middle. Next, he wove a wall around it with bamboo. To make it warmer, he also set up a sandwich structure. As the weather was getting colder and colder, he had to speed up the construction progress. Otherwise, he might quit the competition before the house was finished. After working for a short while, he could only sit on the ground and drink water to rest. Since there wasn't enough bamboo, he had to go and cut some more. At this moment, he suddenly noticed traces of the ground being turned over. He inferred that it was probably done by wild boars. They often dug through the soil everywhere to look for food. Fowler immediately decided to set up several traps here. First, he inserted some more bamboo around it for camouflage. Finally, he tied internal organs as bait to the trigger device. As long as the wild boars dared to come, they would definitely have no way back. On the 36th day of the survival challenge, if Greg knew what Fowler was doing, he would colder weather made it increasingly difficult to catch fish, so he decided to take a raft to the other side of the lake to try his luck. To ensure that the raft was strong and sturdy enough, as a carpenter, he deliberately used mortise and tenon joints. He connected and fixed he found that the hull was too shaky. Just to be on the safe side, he immediately slid to the shore to check the situation. It still needed improvement. The scene shifted to Caroline. In the evening, she sat outside the house and admired the night view. The brilliant starry sky above made her linger, so she decided to camp outside tonight. Just at this moment, the sound of animals suddenly came from nearby. Caroline wasn't afraid. She picked up a flashlight and shone it in the distance. She saw a pair of glowing eyes staring at her menacingly. Caroline became even more excited and walked straight towards it. Vaguely, she could see a figure leaving. She guessed it was either a fox or a wolf, but it didn't affect Caroline's camping. One had to admit that this woman was really brave. It seems Dave really hasn't eaten meat for a long time. He just swallowed the raw fish roe like that. He was really risking his life to win the $1 million prize. The already thin and weak him had only persisted for a little over a month, and he had already become a bony old man. The famished Dave was still full of anticipation. Unfortunately, after fishing for a long time, and changing countless fishing spots, he still caught nothing in the end. There were no animal traces nearby except for mice. Dave originally wanted to make traps with stones to catch them, but the production team didn't allow the contestants to hunt predators, because they carried a deadly hantavirus. Once infected, The mortality rate was as high as 40%. This seriously affected his normal performance, making Dave so angry that he looked up to the sky and roared in fury. The next day, he decided to change his fishing strategy and try fly fishing to see if he could catch any fish. He stuck the fish hook on a branch, tied some feathers to it, and the bionic lure for fly fishing was made. Then it was time to test the results. Fortunately, this method really worked. He walked towards the campsite, enduring hunger. The scene shifted to Greg. To make the raft more stable, he decided to find some more wood to improve it. The lack of food had made him very weak. When moving this log, he used all his strength to stuff it into the raft and fix it firmly with ropes. Now he could finally swim to the other side to fish. For safety's sake, he put on a life jacket. The current water temperature was only around 6 degrees Celsius. Then she inserted them into the ground one by one, forming a circle. Next, she bent the ends of the bamboo and fixed them together, and the overall framework of the sauna room was completed. Finally, she covered it with a waterproof cloth and sent the heated stones from exploding. She also made a protective fence with bamboo inside. To make taking a sauna more ceremonial, Crawley also deliberately laid a green carpet with moss. Now all she had to do was wait for the stones to heat up. During this time, she came to the lake. The scorching hot stones were finally ready. The long-awaited scene finally arrived. Crawley had never treated me as an outsider, so I felt that she should have no problem surviving until the end and winning the prize money. Unexpectedly, she took out a satellite phone the next day, thought for a while, and then directly dialed it. It turned out that this was just a prank of hers. The camera shifts to Fowler. His shelter has finally reached the final stage. These days, he's been either weaving bamboo walls or cutting bamboo. The fat on his body is disappearing at a visible rate. After a flurry of activity, the exterior wall of the shelter is finally done. Next, he just needs to build the roof and he can move in. To clean the house, he also made a 9-tined rake. As night falls, Fowler, who can't sit still, carves a little rabbit for his daughter. The scene shifts to Dan. He has always adhered to the principle. He dreams of eating a lot of delicious food. He even calculates how much energy each step consumes. But he's really a lazy person with lazy luck. Not long after coming to the lake, he catches a big fish. Then he starts to show off, saving as much energy as possible to survive. He knows we'll look down on his survival strategy. But survival challenge has reached the 42nd day. Fowler has expended too much energy building the shelter. He, who was already short of food, is now hungry and tired. He can't help but worry about how much longer he can hold on. Currently, all the contestants are facing a food crisis. If they can't find a new breakthrough soon, it's believed that someone will give up soon. He's waiting to go fishing by the lake before dawn breaks. To pass the time, he picks up a knife and starts whittling wood. After an anxious and long wait, the sun finally rises. Dave can't wait to come to the shore and start fishing. It's said that early morning is the prime time for fishing. Sure enough, a fish takes the bait soon. Now we won't have to go hungry anymore. Dave says words of gratitude to the fish, but his hands are doing something cruel. After thanking, he takes out the fish's sperm sac and eats it. This thing contains a special kind of protein and has high nutritional and medicinal values. It's regarded as a top-grade delicacy by the Japanese. Seeing that the cold winter is approaching, he decides to make a smoked fish rack to store food. First, he inserts 2 bamboo poles beside the fire. Then he connects several thin bamboo strips on top. Next, he uses a knife to slice the fish into pieces. Then he hangs them on the rack to smoke and dry. He also stipulates that he can only eat 1 piece every 3 days. If he can't bear it, he'll eat some wild grass and berries. This way, he might be able to survive until the end. The camera shifts to Crawley. When she lifts the lid of the pot, she's actually made a salted fish licorice soup. She says this can kill the pathogens on her socks. One can eat until not full, but must live a refined life. After disinfecting, she takes it to the water to rinse. I don't know if it's because she didn't wear clothes while sleeping at night, or because of the sauna she took a couple of days ago, but her thighs have been bitten by poisonous spiders a few times. Currently, the wounds have become severely infected. Fortunately, her profession is growing herbs. She quickly finds some plantain, and then collects some usnea from the trees. The combination of the two can have an antibacterial and anti-inflammatory effect. Crawley mashes them up to make a wild version of a poultice. After cleaning the wounds, she applies it with medical tape. She hopes the wounds will slowly heal in the next few days. Otherwise, she'll have to withdraw from this challenge. The next morning, although Crawley's wounds haven't improved significantly, they have subsided. After rebandaging, she decides to make a musical instrument. I have to say, this contestant has a really good mindset. First, she chisels out a groove at one end of the wood. Then she puts some burning charcoal inside. Next, she can only leave it to time in her mouth. After the groove is burned out, she polishes it. Then she drills a hole at the other end, installs a few tuning pegs, and finally ties fish lines to serve as strings. And it's done. Crawley sits by the campfire and strums and sings. Greg's fishing device doesn't let him down. It looks like another big fish has taken the bait, but unexpectedly, when pulling it back, it gets caught on the reeds. To prevent the fish from escaping, he quickly jumps into the water to grab it. But after pulling it out, before he can be happy, he slips and starts drinking the lake water. Fortunately, the big fish doesn't get away. Otherwise, he'll have to eat grass to survive. However, the current temperature is only 5 degrees Celsius. Greg is already half dead from the cold. He doesn't want to miss the $1 million prize because of hypothermia. He quickly takes off his clothes and dries them by the fire. During this period, he had been worried about firewood. Splitting wood every day consumed a lot of energy. He had already used up the nearby resources. He had no choice but to collect wood from other places. A round trip was about 600 or 700 meters. The complex terrain, combined with his already limited food intake, made him so tired that he began to question life. So he decided to pack up and move. The next day, it started to drizzle, but the rain couldn't stop Greg's determination to move. After making the campfire burn more vigorously, he took some charcoal and put it in a pot. Then, after transferring them to the new campsite, he placed some dry branches on top, and soon a fire was started. Seeing that the sky was starting to get covered with dark clouds again, he inferred that there would soon be a heavy rain. Greg could only set up a temporary tent first. He felt that moving at this time was really unwise. He hoped this decision wouldn't bring him a disastrous end. As night fell, Greg planned to improve his shelter the next day. After making a detailed plan, he decided to go to bed early. But unexpectedly, not long after lying down, a seiche occurred. This was a phenomenon similar to tides caused by air pressure on the lake surface. He had to keep an eye on the changes in the water level all the time. In the early hours of the morning, the lake water had already reached the edge of the campfire. Maybe it was because he got wet during the day, but Greg just couldn't warm up no matter what. Even huddling in a waterproof sleeping bag didn't help. His fingers had started to slowly stiffen. The situation for Crawley was also not optimistic. She felt extremely uncomfortable in her body and wanted to retch. The spider's venom had likely already invaded her system. After a sleepless night, her throat and stomach also started to hurt. The 2 glands in her groin also became swollen. This situation was definitely a bit dangerous. Crawley had a premonition that today might be the last day of her challenge. Before leaving, in order not to have any regrets, Crawley carried out her final training around the campsite. Every blade of grass and every tree in front of her was so familiar. Especially this bamboo forest made her feel even more emotional. It was unknown whether Crawley would withdraw from the challenge because of this. Apart from checking his fishing lines every day, whether Dan could catch fish was entirely up to fate. This man was really lucky. He managed to get another fat fish. It was said that luck was also a part of strength, but relying solely on this wouldn't enable him to win the challenge. Back at the campsite, Dan started making fluffy fish. His mother often made it for him at home when he was a child, and also taught him how to quickly remove the fish bones. As he ate, he tasted the flavor of his mother's cooking. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, he enjoyed a sunbath. His yearning for his family became uncontrollable. The survival challenge had reached the 48th day. Carleen was preparing to go fishing by the lake today, because she had somehow caught 2 earthworms. With this universal bait in hand, she was full of confidence, but her casting technique seemed a bit amateurish. She also said that she wasn't very good at fishing. She had tried other methods before. As early as the 28th day, she had built a fish weir. This fishing method could be traced back to the Stone Age. On the 36th day, she had also woven a fish trap. Unfortunately, so far, the 2 traps hadn't caught a single fish. Unconsciously, Carleen had been waiting until it got dark. The lake god probably couldn't stand it anymore, and hoped to fish for her. However, with a slip-up, the fish that was almost in her mouth flew away like that. Carleen finally couldn't hold back and cried. Just as she was lying on the ground feeling hopeless, there was suddenly a sound of fish splashing on the lake surface. She quickly picked up her fishing rod and started fishing. Not long after, another fish took the bait. After successfully pulling it ashore, Carleen's tears couldn't help but flow from the corners of her mouth. This fish rekindled Carleen's hope. She was determined to become the first female. The survival challenge has reached day 50. Dan's longing for his family grows stronger and stronger. He can only sit by the fire and keep encouraging himself. Then he gets up and walks towards the house. The next day, the program team's boat comes to pick someone up. They thought it was coming to pick up Crawley, who was poisoned, or Greg, who was shivering with cold. Unexpectedly, as the staff slowly approach, it turns out to be Dan, the lazy person who misses his family. It's a bit unexpected, but also makes sense. Although doing nothing is a good way to survive, as long as a person is idle, they will start to have wild thoughts. Naturally, they can't stand such loneliness. After Dan leaves, there are only 6 contestants left at present. Unexpectedly, Fowler, who was least favored, has become the most capable contestant so far. He has made all kinds of traps in a very professional manner. The bamboo-woven mansion that cost a fortune to build has been completed. It's not only sturdy and warm, but also fully furnished. Seeing that there are only 2 fish heads and half a fish left for food, he has to go out and find some more. The little birds in the trees catch his attention. Fowler takes out a slingshot and carefully walks towards them, thinking that after eating fish for so long, he can finally change his diet. As a result, the bird is successfully scared away with 1 shot. Unwilling to give up, he decides to make a bird-catching device. Finally, he hangs bait on the trigger device, and a sensitive snare trap is made. Fowler firmly believes that he will soon be able to eat the little birds. He works nearby while waiting for the prey to take the bait. Sure enough, it doesn't take long for the birds to fall for it. It seems that the animals here are extremely clever. The survival challenge has reached day 51. Crawley was bitten by a poisonous spider a few days ago, wasn't she? Her wound was infected, and she had already prepared to withdraw from the competition. After thinking it over, she still wants to hold on for 1 more day. It can be considered as doing her best and leaving the rest to fate, without any regrets. Crawley makes some usnea ointment and applies it to the wound. Then she boils a pot of usnea tea, hoping that both internal and external treatments will alleviate the situation. Otherwise, she will really miss out on the $1 million prize. Early the next morning, Crawley quickly checks her wound. Fortunately, the injury has started to improve, and the infection symptoms are gradually disappearing. Seeing hope, Crawley is extremely excited. As the saying goes, after surviving a great disaster, there must be good fortune to follow. We look forward to her bringing us more exciting scenes. The scene shifts to Greg. After moving due to the heavy rain, he was frozen. His teeth were chattering all night like sending a telegram. He sat by the fire to keep warm before dawn, and continued to do so until daybreak, but he was still shivering all over. As soon as he got up, he would feel dizzy and lightheaded. It seems that he has developed hypothermia, which can cause weakness and hallucinations. In severe cases, it can even be life-threatening. Greg, who is 53 years old, is a bit unable to hold on. After much hesitation, he still dials the rescue phone. He feels deeply guilty for not being able to win the prize money to buy a house for his daughter. He decides that while he is still capable, he will go home and build a house for his daughter with his own hands. After Greg leaves, there are only 5 contestants left. The showdown between the capable contestants officially begins. Fowler's trap doesn't let him down. It seems that he has caught something. To prevent the prey from escaping, he even covers it with clothes. He carefully reaches his hand in, feels around for a while, and then gives it a neck massage. Then he strips it bare, except for the feathers. He can eat the rest. Although this bird can't provide much energy, it's much better than eating grass and missing out on the $1 million prize. In a good mood, Fowler takes out a 9-pronged rake. On the surface, he is cleaning up and collecting firewood, but in fact, he is showing off his handiwork. After that, he goes back to the shelter to have a meal. To make full use of everything from the little bird, Fowler stews it into soup and drinks it. After drinking the chicken soup, he has the strength to survive again. The survival challenge has reached day 59. Dave draws his bow and shoots an arrow into the distance. He thought it was a wild boar, but it turns out to be his feces. He has noticed traces of wild boars nearby these 2 days. As a sharpshooter, Dave can't hold back any longer, so he decides to set up a few traps first to have a try. A few days ago, he picked up a piece of wire somewhere. The rules allow the use of anything found, and it's very suitable for making a snare trap. To ensure that the wild boar has nowhere to escape, he also finds dead wood to make a second trap. The rest can only be left to time and luck. The next day, Dave boils a bowl of tea with strawberry leaves. After drinking it, he decides to go and check the wild boar traps. Although traces of wild boars can be seen nearby, the traps have not been triggered. Dave finds an excellent hiding place nearby, right at the 3-way intersection of the wild boar's activity traces. So he cuts some bamboo for camouflage, then squats there with his bow and arrow, lying in wait. In winter, wild boars are very active during the day to regulate their body temperature. I don't know how long has passed. Suddenly, there is a pig grunting sound nearby. Dave infers that the snare trap has caught it. Considering that a frightened wild boar has extremely high combat effectiveness, and its bite force is enough to crush bones, he holds his bow and arrow, and carefully walks towards the trap. As a result, when he gets there, he finds that he is still a step too late. The place is in a complete mess caused by this creature. The fixed cameras have also been knocked over by it. The wild boar in the lens seems to be laughing at Dave. Callie had just escaped from danger, only to find herself facing a mouse invasion right after her wound infection had just cleared up. Last night, she narrowly avoided a successful nighttime attack by this creature. The mice here carry a type of Hanta virus, which can't be tackled with herbs alone. So, she decided to make a mousetrap. She used a small knife to carve 2 notches into a wooden stick, creating a trigger mechanism. Once the mice dare to come, they'll never make it back alive. The next day, Crawley's trap doesn't let her down. She successfully catches a rat. The only regret is that it can't be eaten. Otherwise, she would have had breakfast today. The most embarrassing thing in Alone in the Wilderness is that a woman is seriously studying traps, while the prey is studying her from behind. The main reason for all this is that this creature disturbs Megan's sleep every night. Foxes are the most common carriers of the rabies virus. Once bitten by it, let alone winning the $1 million prize, once the virus breaks out, one's life may be at stake. Megan originally wanted to stay out of each other's way, but she has run out of food. The plants she has relied on for survival are about to disappear, so she decides to set traps to eat that fox. Considering that a fox's sense of smell is 24 times that of humans, Megan wears gloves when setting the traps. First, she bends a small tree and fixes it on the trigger device. Then she makes a snare with a colorful rope and ties it on top. She lays some branches around for camouflage. Next, she places the bait behind the snare. A hanging trigger device is ready. Now, she just needs to wait quietly for the prey to take the bait. Early the next morning, Megan first checks the fishing device. Since there is no bait, she then goes to check the trap harvest. As a result, she finds that the snare has been bitten off. While she is deep in thought, she suddenly feels a chill down her spine. She turns her head and sees that the fox is studying her from behind. After night falls, the fox indeed comes for revenge. It wanders around outside Megan's shelter. Even the firewood has its scratch marks on it. Megan can only knock on the rain shelter as a warning, but the fox doesn't buy it. At 7 a.m., Megan completely breaks down. She can't help but have the idea of withdrawing from the competition. The scene shifts to Caroline. Early in the morning, she receives a luxury takeout. Unfortunately, this moose is an endangered species. The program team should have told them not to touch these animals. She can only watch helplessly as $3 million slips away before her eyes. When she goes out to look for food, she finds a hole in her glove, so she decides to make some asphalt glue to repair it. First, she collects some branches from a spruce tree. Then she mixes them with ash and spreads them evenly on the glove. After waiting for the asphalt glue to solidify, the hole is repaired.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more survival stories.